How are you doing? This is Martin from Gardens for Life. I don't think it's going to get any less windy this week or next week, so we better give you guys a tour of the front garden and show you before the winter comes in and before all these herbaceous plants actually go back, retrieve into the root space. So you can start over here. I do apologise for the wind noise in advance. We're trying to keep the mic covered. So here we have a bit of a lawn. So this entire front garden used to be a lawn, as you can see here, just like that. But we have covered most of it with lasagna garden beds. So you can see here, and bordered them off with rocks or field stones. And seems to be doing a pretty good job. Very little weeding to do now. We have mowed the lawn, but we did not take down the grass on the edges, which only takes about 10 minutes for the whole garden, so it's not too bad. Just using a little sickle for that purpose. So here we got a bit of mashua and a bit of wormwood, some rhubarb, all kinds of things in the border. Be a bit of a hedge here, including some red currants and black currants, and hazel and some more substantial trees, for example hawthorn, and even a few laurels in between for the winter. So luckily enough now the wind seems to have calmed down a little bit now, and it's a lovely evening. We have a nice bit of sunshine, so we'll show you guys now. Here we have, generally speaking, several inches of compost and wood chips on top of that as a mulch, just to stop most of the weeds from growing. And we have a mixture of fruit trees and also some soft fruit and a few vegetables and flowers in between. The flowers are mostly for ornamental reasons, of course, but also to create a balance. Like these marigolds here, for example. They attract beneficiary insects and predatory insects also, and it stops any pest from taking over the garden, basically. Here we have a lovely apple cider mint. The smell of it is lovely. And here's a sage plant right beside that. And here's a comfrey plant planted right under an apple tree, which is ideal. It's great ground cover, and if you want to chop and drop it as well, it'll help mulch the garden. And it's a mineral accumulator, so it helps the apple tree get what it needs. So this would be one oca plant. It must be nearly a square meter just for the one oca plant. It's actually the biggest one in our garden, biggest one we've ever grown, and all grown just from one little kind of a tiny tuber. Mulched the middle of it there a little bit, just as an experiment. You can see here there's a couple of apples on that tree. Here's a marshmallow plant. They're lovely. You can actually dry the leaves and use them in the winter time if you have a rough throat. They're very soft leaves. They have mucilage in them, and the flowers, they're great as well. They can be white and pink, and they do keep flowering for months and months at a time every year. So, and they're perennial, of course. So here's a yacon plant. We're only growing that for the first time this year. So it's a tuber from the Andes anyway, a bit like a potato. I believe it's perennial. If you guys know, let me know, please, in the comments. So here we have a salmonberry from Lubera. Has a little pink flower, just like so. And the reason why it's called salmonberry is because the native North Americans used to collect the berries just during the time of the salmon runs, and that's how the berry bush got the name. It's actually a type of raspberry, grows more into a bush, and it's actually a little bit thorny as well. So we'll see how that goes, and maybe we can grow some more next year from cuttings. We'll let that plant establish first now. You can see there's a few beetroot plants in between, and a bit of borage here, and some garlic chives. It's just flowering now. And here is more oca. And there's some Chinese artichoke in between. Looks a bit like mint actually. But let's see how that is. I think you can roast them just like the oca and the mashua in the oven with a bit of olive oil and a bit of salt. Here's a rosemary, poppies, and here's a plum tree. Geez, that needs to be pruned big time. We'll do that in the winter now. And here's some strawberry plants, very healthy strawberry plants. Jesus Christ, it's so easy to grow strawberries in wood chips, and you can see here they're actually sending out shoots, growing new plants. Here's one. Here's one there. There you go. There's a plant that comes from the shoot and it establishes here. And if you wanted to transplant one of these with wood chips, it's very easy to pull them up. There you go. And you can get nearly all of the root. There you are. That's a strawberry plant now. I wouldn't personally disconnect it from the umbilical cord, as I call it, but anyway, the shoot from the mother plant, which is over there, until it's actually completely dried out. So, but you could put that in a pot now, and it'll grow for the rest of this season, and you have a big plant then next year. So look, we just push it back in the ground, and there you are. That'll grow on. Here's a gooseberry bush, and here's the insect hotel. Thanks again, Bianca's parents, for building it and making the lovely sign. And here's of course that's an oregano bush, as a matter of fact. Here's the flowers. We must dry more oregano and sage, because they'll die back now soon, and we want to have some for the winter. Keep it in jars after drying it. Here's a lovage plant. Lovely, lovely spice. It's a lovely smell off it. And you can use it in stews and soups and that kind of thing. And here's the little pat. You can see here. So we have all these little pats. You can go walking around. So let's see, what else have we got? So this is one of the original mallow plants. I'm not even entirely sure what type of mallow it is, but it's, if anyone knows, please let us know in the comments, because we'd love to know if it's a marshmallow plant. We've been told before that it is, but we're not entirely sure, because marshmallow is white and pink, and this is just pink. There's the flower. And here's a black mallow. We've been growing a few of them now. That's a 1-year-old plant, and they get quite a few flowers, and it's lovely. What a lovely plant. Here's more mint and marigolds, and here's some, oh geez, a big mashua plant here. Here's the fig tree. That's one of 2 fig trees we have on the land. It's only small, it's only about 2 foot or 60 centimeters tall, but Jesus, it's establishing very well. And we've already got figs on the other one out the back. Check out the size of these rhubarb leaves. I mean, it is incredible. Here's my hand. That's the size of the leaf we're talking about. It's enormous. So it must be 1 meter by 60 centimeters of size. And there's the stalks. And this is mid-September. So, of course, this is not a variety of rhubarb we'd eat at this time of the year, because of all the I think it's the malic acid in the leaves that travels back as into the stalks, as the plant retrieves all its energy into the tuberous root for the winter. But there is a variety called Glaskin Perpetual, and it's a really good one. We do grow that one quite a lot, and it's the only variety I'm going to be planting anymore. And you can harvest the stalks of rhubarb any time of the year. here's a variety of apple that we can only recommend. It's called Fiesta, and we got it as a present, just this tray here, from one of our landlords from years ago. And as I said to him before, it's the gift that keeps on giving. And Jesus Christ, we've had apples off this tree now every year for the last 2 years, and it's been transplanted twice because we moved house, so it won't be transplanted again now. But you can see, Jesus Christ, the branches are actually bending down. And hopefully we'll end up with something like Paul Gauci has, with his apple trees very easily accessible from the ground. There's a good few bits and pieces here. There's a crab apple tree, a few mountain ash, a few willows. This is mostly just a hedge. The wind is starting up again now. It's mostly a hedge just to block off a lot of the wind for the smaller plants here. And here we have more delicate stuff than in behind the wall and behind the outer layer of trees anyway. Here's some fennel that had gone to seed. Started off as little bitty fennel plants grown last year. I know fennel is supposed to be perennial as far as I know, I think. And because we've had one fennel plant for 4 years, and it kept growing bigger and bigger every year. And check out the amount of fennel seed on that plant. A lot of fennel seed here. So can't wait to go collecting them until they're dry. Once they're dry, then we'll collect them, and then we'll store them for the winter to use them for the cooking. Oh, yeah, lovely smell of them. And there's another crab apple, and here's another blackcurrant. But yeah, this is the latest bit. Trying to finish it all off, all the borders and everything. The main thing is all the fertility's gone in, all the wood chips and all the compost, and the plants, of course. The plants were all gone in. When did they go in? About the start of July. Now it's mid-September already, so haven't really had a chance to finish off the whole garden, but nearly all of it, as you can see here. Still a little bit more work to do. In case any of you guys haven't seen these monkey puzzle trees yet, they're fairly big. And here's a branch. We've left it on here deliberately so you can feel how heavy it is. It is substantial. It's probably about 100 kilos just for that bit here, and it's vicious enough now if you go against the grain, but we'll try not to. Here's the little willow arch that's become disconnected from the last heavy winds. I think it was the early May winds. And here's the lovely little gate at the front. I'll show you guys real quick. Here's some of the pumpkins that have climbed over the wall of the front of the house onto the little road. And we don't mind that, but they'll take up the heat from the south facing wall. And here's 1 or 2 pumpkins already here. So we'll see how that goes. And a few Jerusalem artichokes and a few marshmallow plants and a few hazelnuts, a couple of laurels in the front too, and a few flowering bushes that have been established a long time ago. And here's some thornless blackberries. I believe the variety is Loch Ness. So we should get some berries off them next year now. Here's the butterfly bush, lovely smell off it. And that was grown from a cutting, and that's only a year old. Must grow some more of those now next year. And here's the fuchsia, that's how I pronounce it. And here's a little apple tree. We'll hopefully outgrow some of these flowering bushes. Close that gate. Make sure the cows don't get in. There's a yarrow plant that should hopefully establish. That's a perennial medicinal flower. It also grows wild here. Here's a couple of willows, which I just stuck in the ground there last year for the crack. And you can see they must be about 5 meters tall now. But you know, I always use them for cuttings anyway. Lovely bit of shelter for the corner. Here's a few roses, a few wild roses. The smell is lovely. I have them right along the driveway here. So when you drive in or walk in, hopefully you'll be able to smell them then when they're fully established. Here's some white currant bushes. Here's a gooseberry, a few bits of kale, Nero Black Tuscany, bit of arugula, a few beetroots. Here's a bit of lemon balm, another couple of ochas, blackcurrant, another thornless blackberry in the background there, and another fuchsia, which I can never pronounce. Here's a St. John's wort. It's not the medicinal type. Here is, let me see now, this corner here is a little bit rough. We'll be putting in a pond back here, right here. We're going to dig that up and put in a pond. So at the moment there's only a bit of kale in the corner. So yeah, so this is the front arch, which hopefully we'll be able to grow some roses up and a few hardy kiwis and grapes. You can see it's quite a substantial willow arch now. With they'll have to be connected now. They've only established last year, so, and during the summertime you can't really connect them because they're gone too brittle. And in the winter time now we'll connect them up and it'll be a lot more rigid than it was. Here's a few kitchen herbs. This whole corner here, rosemary and oregano, sage, chives, parsley, thyme. We have another little apple tree here and another tiny apple tree here. Here's the little playhouse for our son Jacob, built from pallets thanks to Bianca's father. No furniture in it yet, and there's some hardware cloth to keep the, or not hardware cloth, a bit of windbreaker to keep the insects out. Yeah, we'll have to put in some tiny furniture for himself once he can walk. He's only 6 months old now.